Are you looking to build your first gaming PC? Well, you've come to the right video. Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Russell and today will be a step-by-step guide on how to build your gaming PC. So today we have a budget of 25,000 pesos. I have built an Intel Core i3 plus a GTX 1050 Ti. Yes, we have a GPU. This is the first time we've had a PC build with a GPU in it kasi shortage ngayon so mahirap bumili ng GPU, but now we have a GPU. Our GPU for this build is a GTX 1050 Ti. So it's a gigabyte single fan and this will still be good even if you play different high-end games such as GTA 5, Rainbow Six Siege, even The Witcher. You can run The Witcher. You can also play Battlefield 4, Battlefield 5, Battlefield 1. And I think you can even play esports games at 144Hz. So you can use a 144Hz monitor and play your League of Legends, Valorant, CSGO, Dota 2 on this GPU, a GTX 1050 Ti. So all the parts and prices will be listed on screen, and this build will consist of both second-hand and brand new parts. The reason why I couldn't do a full second-hand PC build is yung location mahirap like there I see a good deal pero nasa Manila. Ako taga-South ako So nakakatakot kasi baka nga ma-scam or something, kaya I prefer meetups. So I was fortunate enough to get a second-hand CPU plus motherboard as well as a second-hand GPU because eto malapit lang sa area, so nakapag-lala-move or meetup na lang kasi mas safe pag ganon. Tsaka na-test naman kung gumagana or hindi. So I am pretty sure na working naman siya. So we will start building the PC. I will put the camera on a top view kasi ayoko hawakan yung camera habang nagbe-build. So it will be some sort of POV type video. Now, let's get to the build. So the first thing you want to do here is unbox the motherboard. And since second hand to, nandun na yung CPU pero tatanggalin ko naman para ipakita ko kung paano siya tinatanggal. So first what you want to do is take out the motherboard from the anti-static bag. Also make sure to take out all the necessary screws as well as the I/O shield. And close the box after. Next, what you want to do is put the motherboard on top of the box because we will first be installing the CPU as well as the cooler. When opening Intel motherboard CPU sockets, all you have to do is push down the lever. Now you will see a gold pin on your CPU. This is most prominent on Ryzen CPUs. You will match the golden pin on the CPU to the indicator of AMD motherboards. But for Intel, the gold pin will usually be on the metal part of the CPU socket, and make sure to follow where it goes. When installing the CPU, you don't have to push it down. The CPU will fall by itself, and make sure that it just sits tight. You don't have to apply pressure on the CPU as you pull it down because the CPU will slot in by itself. For Intel motherboards, once you are done inserting the CPU, you may put back the CPU socket using the lever and lock the CPU socket with the lever again, just like how it was before you opened it. Next, we are going to install the CPU cooler. For AMD CPUs, it is usually either a latch, or for Ryzen Wraithspire coolers, it will just be 4 screws that you have to screw in on the motherboard. Make sure to align the AMD cooler properly before you screw it in. Most stock coolers will come pre-applied with thermal paste, so you don't need to put thermal paste on your CPU if you're using the stock cooler. Some aftermarket coolers will come with no pre-applied thermal paste. Be sure to check that before you install your CPU cooler. For Intel motherboards, all you have to do is align it and make sure to push down the 4 pins on each corner of the CPU. Now, once you are done installing your CPU cooler, make sure to connect your CPU cooler to the CPU fan header, usually located on the top right of your CPU or on the top left of your RAM slots. It only goes in one way, so you make sure it is aligned properly before you slot it in. Now you may put aside your CPU and motherboard, and we can start working on the case. For the case, make sure to remove both side panels on the left and right as well as the front panel if you need to install fans in the front. Once you have successfully opened the case, usually there will be a pack of screws as well as cable ties, and you may remove that and put it aside for now. Next, we want to check the case if it has pre-installed motherboard standoffs. Usually, you would only need to install 4. For me, it is optional to install all 6. This applies for M80X, but for standard size ATX motherboards, I recommend you install all standoffs. If your case does not come with pre-applied standoffs, you may check the pack that we just removed from the case and see if the motherboard standoffs are there. Next, we are going to install the I/O shield. When installing the I/O shield, you may check the 3 circles on the bottom because that will serve as our indicator that it will be in the bottom part of the case. When installing the I/O shield, make sure that it is locked in place before you install your motherboard. Now we can slot the motherboard in. Take note that the backplate will kinda push the motherboard away from it, so hindi sakto, but that is fine. All you need to do is apply a little bit of force so that the motherboard will push against the backplate, and make sure to check the other side kung nakapasok na lahat ng ports ng motherboard sa backplate. Once you are done doing that, open the pack that came with the case and look for screws. The screws will look like this. It has a flat base and a circular top, and that will be used for screwing in the motherboard. Make sure to screw all of them properly, and it is ideal to start from the bottom left so that it will hold the motherboard in place. Next, we are going to set up our hard drive and SSDs. Some cases will require you to remove the hard drive bay and install the hard drive from outside and screw it in. But some cases will come with hard drive cages in which you can just slide it in and screw it from the side. And there will be some cases that does not come with hard drive cages, and you'd need to screw in the hard drive on the case itself. And as for the SSD, check the front side of your case and see if there is a slot for SSDs. If it does, then install the SSD there. There will also be some cases that SSDs will be placed in the back of your motherboard. Just make sure to check the motherboard manual or search online on where the SSD is placed on the motherboard. Next thing we're gonna do is install our power supply. Next, for a quick rundown of our power supply cables, the first cable we have here is our 20+4 pin motherboard connector. This connector will be used to power the motherboard. The next cable we have here is our 4+4 EPS CPU cable. This is used to power the CPU. The next we have here is our PCIe 6+2 cable. This is used for connecting to the GPUs and powering it. And lastly, we have our SATA and Molex cable. This is used to power your hard drive SSDs as well as your fan hubs and fans. When installing the power supply, make sure to check the bottom of your case for a fan filter. The fan filter will be used so that the dust won't come inside your power supply. And make sure your power supply fan is facing the fan filter from the bottom. Otherwise, if your PC case does not have a fan filter on the bottom, make sure that you install your PSU with the fan facing upwards. There will be 4 screws for your power supply. Make sure to screw them diagonally first so that it will keep the power supply in place. Next, we are going to connect our power supply to the motherboard as well as the hard drive and SSD. The first cable you want to look out for is the 20 plus 4 pin motherboard connector. The second is the EPS or the 4 plus 4 pin CPU power connector. It will usually be located on the top left of your motherboard, so make sure to route it on the right side of your PC case. Next, we are going to connect the SATA cables on the motherboard to our hard drive and SSDs. Usually, motherboards will come with 2 to 3 SATA power cables, and this will be enough to power both our hard drive and SSD. Next thing we're gonna do is connect our SATA power cables to both our hard drive and SSD. SATA power cables look like this. Since we don't have a GPU, we can hide our PCIe cables for now since we don't have to use it. Next, we are going to connect our SATA cables from our hard drive and SSD to the motherboard. Usually, the SATA ports will be here on the right side of the motherboard, so make sure to connect it there. And now to connect our SATA cable for the SSD. And now it's time for some cable management. Now it's time to connect our front I/O cables. These are the cables that come from the front side of your PC case. The first cables we want to connect are the USB and HD audio cables. This will be usually found on the bottom left of your motherboard, so make sure to put it on the right side of your PC case. The HD audio header will be found on the bottom left of the motherboard, and make sure to check the orientation because it only goes in one way. Same goes for the USB. There will usually be labels for the USB header, which will be USB 1 and USB 2. Make sure to plug it in USB 1 first. Next, we will connect the USB 3.0 header. Usually, it will be found on the right side or bottom right side of the motherboard. Make sure to check the notch because it only goes in one way. Next, we will connect our reset switch, power LED, and HDD LED. It is usually found on the bottom right of your motherboard. This can be kind of tricky, so make sure to check your motherboard manual or motherboard guide for the labels of which header to connect to. On the header, you will find a plus and minus sign. If you look at the bottom part of the cable, you will see an arrow. The arrow points to which one is positive, so make sure to connect it that way. Next, we will install our PC fans and the fan hub. So a quick tip when installing your fans, I'll try to explain this as easy as possible. So basically, yung front face ng fan, yun yung intake. Tapos kung nasaan yung branding or logo or usually yung cable, dun siya lalabas. So since we want to have two intakes in the front, we will first install the two fans at the front. As you can see, the front face of the fan is facing forward and then the one with the cable is facing backwards. Make sure when installing your fan that the cable is directed towards the back of your case para mas madali mag-cable management. You may look for the fan screws that are included with your PC case or fan screws that are included with your fans. These will both work, so you don't have to worry about getting the wrong one. Now that we have connected our fans, it is time to connect our fan hub. There will be some fan hubs that all you need to do is remove the 3M tape on the back and just stick it on the back of your case. And there will also be some fan hubs that will require you to screw it on the case itself. Now before you install your fan hub on the case, make sure to connect all your fans on the fan hub first. You will see fan numbers and make sure to connect it by fan 1, 2, 3, and so on. Once you have completed connecting your fans to the fan hub, you may now connect the fan power on the fan hub. Now it's time to connect the fan hub to the Molex power or SATA power. Molex cables will look like this. If you don't have to connect any more PCIe connectors on your GPU, you may now finally close the back side of your PC. Now it's time to remove the GPU brackets on the back side of the case. Usually these are the ones that you have to open in order for you to slot in your GPU. Most GPUs will require you to remove 2 slots, and if your GPU only supports 1 slot, then make sure to remove the topmost slot only. But before we install the GPU, we would need to install the RAM first. When installing your RAM, make sure to open the 2 locks on both ends of the RAM slot of your motherboard first. If you feel that the RAM does not go down, make sure to check the bottom because it only goes in one way. And when installing RAM, if you have a 2-slot motherboard, usually the first RAM stick you have to slot in is the second one. And when you are using 4-slot motherboards, you need to install on 2, 4, 1, and 3 in that order. When installing your RAM, make sure to put pressure on both ends of the RAM with your thumb. Once your RAM is installed properly, you will hear clicks on both ends of the RAM slot. And now it's time to install the GPU. Make sure to remove the rubber protection on the GPU first before you install it. Usually GPUs will be installed with its fan facing down. Make sure to open the lock first on the GPU slot before you install the GPU. All you have to do is push it down and make sure it unlocks. Now you may slot in your GPU. And push it down until it locks by itself. Now, grab a screw and screw in the GPU on the PC case. This will make sure that the GPU is secure and tight. Now the PC build is complete and we can now install our side panel. Alright, we are back. Sinet up ko na lahat. Yung monitor, mouse, keyboard. Ay, nandun pa nga yung ano eh. Oops. Now, I will demonstrate how to install Windows on your PC. First, you need to have your bootable drive. I will have a separate video for the bootable drive tutorial. But for now, assuming that we already have an already working bootable drive, we can now turn on the PC for the first time. Let us turn on the power supply and turn on the power switch. Ayun. Now we are at the BIOS. Now we can check the system status. We can see that our 16 gigs of RAM is detected, and now we are ready to put in our Windows 10. First thing to do is get your bootable drive and put it in your PC. Now from here, you can restart from the BIOS and it will automatically go to your Windows. Now we are here in the Windows screen. I don't think makikita nyo ng maayos, so I will just get my phone and look at it properly. So now, we have, make sure it is both English, United States, and US. Now we will press next. And then install now. Now here, if you have a Windows product key, you can input it here. But if you don't, you can still use Windows unactivated. Just click I don't have a product key. Now here, what we really want is Windows 10 Pro, not Pro N. So Windows 10 Pro and then next. Now just agree. And select Custom Install Windows Only. Now what we have to do here is find our SSD. Our SSD is drive 0, which is 223, and our HDD is drive 1, which is 931. So we want to install Windows here in our SSD. So select that and click next. And now it will automatically install Windows for you. You can leave your PC running for 10 minutes or up to 20 minutes and it will restart by itself. Once you come back, the PC will be now in Windows setup. Now we are here at Windows setup. Let us start setting up. So, United States. Always choose United States, US, and then second keyboard, hindi mo na kailangan yan, skip. And then we can use Ethernet now, pero right now kahit mamaya na. So, kasi hindi ko pa kinakabit. We'll choose I don't have internet and continue with limited setup. Now we'll just put your name, sabihin natin user, password 123, confirm 123. Security question, since this won't be my PC anyway, I will just be putting random answers here. So 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4 5. Pero if this is gonna be your PC, just make sure to answer properly. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Next. You can accept all of this. And then Cortana, not now. And now, automatic na yan, pupunta sa Windows. The next thing you will have to do is to install your chipset and drivers.
A few minutes later.
I probably need to replace the fan kasi it's so loud and parang nagra-run siya at maximum speed. So kailangan ko talaga i-replace yung fan. Ang ingay na ito. Anyway, ganito na lang muna siya. I will try to fix the CPU fan para hindi siya maingay.
Several days later.
Alright, so it's now been 4 days. 4 days kasi pinalitan ko yung cooler. Ayan, meron na siyang magandang cooler. Deep Cool Ice Edge Mini. Kasi nag-overheat yung with the stock cooler. So I guess na worn out yung stock cooler na binigay sa akin. Kasi nga, second hand lang siya and we can't really tell kung abused talaga. We can't really tell or abused siya or may problem yung cooler itself, pero sana ngayon okay na kasi na-install ko na yung bagong cooler. And now, let's continue where we left off. Okay, so madalim na. Let us turn this on. Okay, turn on the monitor. Let's turn on the PC. Ayan. Umiikot yung fan. Looks good, looks good. Okay, nalagay ko na yung HDMI. Ngayon, mag-login na tayo. Check muna natin yung temps before we proceed. Alright. Ang ingay. Run. Alright. Ayan na siya. So, our new temps are, ayan, 53 on idle. That's, ayan, 45. Medyo mataas pa rin for idle kasi usually 40 ang 40 to 45, pero ayun 55. Pero oh well, ganun talaga kasi budget cooler lang naman, hindi naman siya water cooling or anything. And that will do. So ngayon, isa-set up ko yung camera para turuan ko kayo paano mag-install ng drivers. Okay, so first thing you have to do is open this. Open your Microsoft Edge kasi nga wala pa yung mga software. Gusto nyong gawin muna, kung meron kayong NVIDIA GPU or AMD GPU, make sure na i-download nyo muna yung video drivers. So since NVIDIA ang gamit natin ngayon, NVIDIA GeForce Experience, makikita nyo yung update drivers and then download. So after downloading, open file. Okay, yes. Hintayin natin mag-open up. And then, agree and install. Make sure na kung naka-SSD plus HDD kayo, i-install nyo lahat ng drivers nyo sa SSD na mismo kung nasaan ang Windows operating system. So, bale lahat ng NVIDIA drivers, AMD drivers kung meron, and yung mga motherboard drivers as well. Yung mga Realtek LAN driver, yung mga audio driver, yung chipset driver. Mamaya natin i-install yon. We'll do it one by one muna. Okay? Now, once nandito na kayo, just start tour or skip. I prefer skip na lang. Now, makikita nyo yung tab na drivers. Click nyo yon. And then, makikita nyo yung game ready driver. Download. And then, hintayin nyo na lang matapos. Once natapos na ang download, click nyo yung Express installation. Yes. And then automatic na siya mag-i-install. Once the installation is complete, you can close it. And normally, you would want to restart pero may i-install pa tayo. Mag-i-install naman tayo ngayon ng chipset drivers. So what you want to do now is search the model of your motherboard. ProVH. Open nyo. And then usually, nandun siya sa support tab. Halos lahat ng mga motherboard manufacturers makikita nyo sa support tab. And then sa support tab, click nyo yung driver. Then kung ano yung sinelect nyo sa Windows, usually it's Windows 10 64-bit. System and chipset drivers, makikita nyo yung Intel chipset driver. Ganon din sa AMD. Download, open, setup chipset, extract all, extract. Ayan na, pwede na. Setup chipset. Next, accept, install. And yes. Okay, so after that, may mga optional na pwedeng gawin. Pwede nyo i-download yung LAN drivers. Pwede nyo i-download yung onboard audio drivers. As well as other drivers, depending kung anong gusto nyo. Pero optional naman yan. You don't really need it kasi usually, auto-update naman yung mga to. Next na gagawin natin is magre-restart. And now, naka-install na ang GeForce Experience, naka-install na tayo ng chipset drivers, you're good to go, pwede mo na gamitin yung PC. So nakapag-install na tayo ng Windows operating system, nakapag-install na tayo ng NVIDIA drivers, as well as the Intel chipset drivers, kasi nga Intel yung gamit natin. Now, at this point, I will start downloading games. And to keep it short, magda-download na lang ako ng Valorant para i-testing. And in the future, kung nandito pa yung PC, I can do more benchmark videos. Pero this PC will be on for sale. Magbe-benchmark muna tayo ng Valorant gameplay. We're gonna try it at maximum settings para makita natin yung FPS. So if you're interested in buying this computer, wala pang monitor, as in system unit lang. Stick around until the end of the video. So right now, we are playing on max settings at 1080p. Yeah, 1080p yan kasi yung monitor ko ngayon, TV yan eh. Right now, I'm not sure if nakikita nyo pero it is around 190 FPS to 200. Ouch, hindi pala ako nagbabay. Plus, yan. So, I'll just say yung FPS kasi ang hirap tsaka yung camera nasa mukha ko right now. So, ang hirap maglaro. So, just excuse my bad gameplay. Sorry na, ganito lang ako. Hindi ko makita. Alit kasi ng monitor. Pang laptop na sizing monitor na to eh. Pang 14-inch. Hindi ko makita. Pero yun. Right now, it's 170. Hindi siya bumababa ng 150 FPS actually.
No worries, Charlie. No worries.
Stable siya.
Fight. I am
At
with you.
ayun o, nagto 200 FPS actually. Ayun. 200 FPS, 190 FPS. Baba ng... Bagal pa ng sensitivity ko. Saan yun? May naririnig ako. Ayun, namatay nga ako. Zoom in ko nga. Kahit di ko makita yung... ano. Ayan. 180. Focus ko nga. Focus. Ayan, 200. Ito, wala akong makita po. Okay, I'm done. Ayoko na. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching and sticking up to the end. I can't really play Valorant that much kasi ang liit ng monitor oh. 14 inches lang ata to pang laptop. Tapos yung ang liit pa ng pixel, as in pixel, yung ulo ng kalaban. Pero that's not the point here. The point is, this PC can run Valorant at 150, actually 200 FPS. Naka-max settings na yan So paano pa kung nilower mo, baka umabot pa yan ng 250 to 300. Plus, take into consideration, kung trip mo mag-stream or gumawa ng content, is also gonna be good for you kasi nga, quad-core na siya. Yung i3 kasi ngayon, quad-core na kasi i3 dati, 6 Gen, 7 Gen, dual-core. Pero if I remember correctly, i3 8 Gen pataas is quad-core na. So that makes it a good value for buying Intel CPUs on a budget. This PC will be sold for 26,000 pesos. Included lang dito ang system unit, walang monitor, mouse, and keyboard. Kasi yung budget lang natin is for the PC only. Tingnan mo, ito, kung may budget lang ako pang monitor, ito, hindi ko sana ginagamit to. Pero ito lang meron ako right now na spare monitor. So, ayun. Included na sa PC is Windows 10 na activated, na genuine. Lahat ng drivers updated, yung Windows, yung Nvidia updated, yung Intel chipset updated. And if gusto nyo ipa-update sa akin yung LAN pati audio, i-PM nyo na lang ako sa page na interested kayo bumili. And then we can just talk about it na lang dun sa page ko kung interested. So bali, first come first serve, 26,000 plus shipping. Kung malapit ka, lalamove lang yan. Kung mas malayo sa NCR, we can do LBC na lang. If you're interested and taga North ka, I suggest LBC na lang. But if you're NCR or South, madali na lang magpalalamove. So, that's it for this video. If ever hindi pa nabebenta to, I will make more benchmark videos. And if you're interested to see what games this PC can play, drop a comment down below of what game you want me to benchmark on this system. So that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.